June 5th, 1942. We've seen naval battles in the Pacific this year, in the South Java Sea and the Coral Sea, for example. But right now is the mother of them all. Right now, Japan has sent out dozens and dozens of warships across the Pacific to bring battle to the American fleet. And the Americans do not disappoint. Right now is the Battle of Midway. I'm Indy Neidell. This is an extra regular episode of World War II that focuses on the action this week in the Pacific Ocean. At noon on June 2nd, the full might of the Japanese combined fleet turns south-southeast and begins its final approach towards Midway Atoll. At the forefront, emerging from heavy fog, is Kido Butai, the first air fleet under Chuichi Nagumo's command. The four heavy aircraft carriers of Carrier Divisions 1 and 2, Akagi, Kaiga, Hiryu, and Soryu move at its center, guarded by two fast battleships, two heavy cruisers, and a flotilla of light cruisers and destroyers. So far, Operation MI remains on schedule. By the morning of June 4th, Kido Butai will be in position to strike Midway Atoll. According to the plan, devised by Combined Fleet Commander Isoroku Yamamoto, her bombers and fighters will pounce on the Americans, destroying their air power on the ground as well as their anti-aircraft batteries in a surprise attack. 2 days later, the beaches of Kure, Sand Island, and Eastern Island are to be taken by storm by the Japanese naval infantry of the main invasion force under Raizo Tanaka, followed by thousands of construction workers to be given a day to repair the airfields and turn the defenses of Midway around against the Americans. Takeo Kurita's close support group, built around four heavy cruisers, will bombard the coast with Nobutake Kondo's force in support. But Kondo's two battleships, four heavy cruisers, 7 destroyers, and the light carrier Zuiho have another task first. They are bait. See, the Japanese, in general, think the Americans are weak and thus hesitant to fight. And if they were aware of the massive armada heading towards them, they would stay within the safety of Pearl Harbor instead of offering battle. But battle is what Yamamoto wants, hence bait. Midway is well within striking range of Pearl Harbor, and it is expected that the U.S. battle fleet would head out immediately to counter the landings. However, Yamamoto's main force of massive battleships and heavy cruisers will not enter scouting range of Midway and will instead lie in ambush around 500 kilometers to the west until the U.S. Navy comes out to play. After submarines and aircraft from the restored Midway airfields weaken the clueless American fleet, the trap is to be sprung. They will destroy America's Pacific naval power in a devastating pincer attack between Kido Butai and the main battle fleet. Yet, what was originally planned as the largest amphibious naval operation ever attempted in military history, with 28 admirals leading 200 ships and with 700 planes, is already quite reduced in strength. The Battle of the Coral Sea a month ago cost Kido Butai the use of Carrier Division 5 today. Carrier Shokaku was damaged, and Zuikaku was not damaged, but took big losses in planes and air crew that need replacing. So they're not here now. Yamamoto was unwilling to cancel or postpone his plan, though. And anyhow, within Kido Butai, the newcomers of Carrier Division 5 has always been seen as the little brothers, the less skilled B team. A saying went around: if the sons of the concubine could win the victory, the sons of legal wives should find no rivals in the world. Yet, the Imperial Japanese Navy does indeed have rivals in this world, and they are just 500 kilometers north of Midway, completely unknown to the Japanese. In addition to the other code-breaking stuff I've talked about the past few weeks, on May 27th, Hypo Station cracked the super-enciphered time-date code of JN-25, the Japanese Naval Code. They know that the first diversionary attack on the Aleutians comes June 3rd, with Midway starting a day later. Pacific Fleet Commander-in-Chief Chester Nimitz has gathered and reinforced all forces available to foil Japanese plans. On May 30th, carrier Yorktown is put back to sea as the center of Task Force 17 under Jack Fletcher, outfitted with a new set of 76 aircraft. 25 F-4F fighters, 37 SBD dive bombers, and 14 TBD torpedo bombers. She is screened by heavy cruisers Astoria and Portland and destroyers Hammond, Hughes, Morris, Anderson, and Russell. Task Force 17 rendezvous with Task Force 16 under Raymond Spruance's command, as I mentioned last week, featuring the carriers Enterprise and Hornet. Enterprise carries 78 aircraft, Hornet 77, both with a similar distribution of force as Yorktown. They are packed together with the heavy cruisers New Orleans, Minneapolis, Vincennes, Northampton, and Pensacola, as well as the modern light cruiser Atlanta and a screen of 9 destroyers, Phelps, Warden, Monaghan, Elwyn, Balch, Cunningham, Benham, Ellett, and Maury. All together, the American ships have 233 aircraft, just 15 fewer than Kido Butai. What they lack, however, is experience in joint carrier operations, and Spruance has never commanded a mixed task before, yet they are all now tasked with undertaking a coordinated, simultaneous strike against the most experienced naval air force in the world. Spruance gives the order. An attack for the purpose of capturing Midway is expected. The attacking force may be composed of all combatant types, including 4 or 5 carriers plus transports and train vessels. If the presence of Task Forces 16 and 17 remain unknown to the enemy, we should be able to make surprise flank attacks on the enemy carriers from a position northeast of Midway. Further operations will be based on the results of these attacks, damage inflicted by Midway forces, and information of enemy movements. Midway itself has been reinforced and its air strength significantly beefed up. On Eastern Island, the airstrip has 127 aircraft of all types from the Navy, Marine Corps, and Army Air Force, among them 31 PBY Catalina patrol planes, 17 B-17 heavy bombers, and 4 B-26 medium bombers. The Midway garrison has reinforcements of elite Marine raiders and a platoon of light tanks. The beach defenses have weapon sights, barbed wire, and mines. On June 3rd, more than 1,000 miles north, that's 1,600 kilometers north, of Kido Butai, Japanese light carrier Ryujo and carrier Junyo launch attacks against Dutch harbor in the Aleutians. The Americans take nearly 100 casualties and lose 14 planes. The Japanese have 10 men killed and 5 captured. They lose 8 planes destroyed, but the Americans capture 1 Zero intact, whose design, strengths, and flaws they will be able to study in the future. This side mission includes attacks on the islands Kiska and Attu. 4 days later, Japanese troops take those remote and strategically unimportant islands without much resistance. During the Battle of Dutch Harbor, Kido Butai raises speed to 24 knots, and the flight decks of the carriers bristle with activity. Groups of Zeros are periodically armed, fueled, and launched in case of a land-based air attack from Midway. So far, they have not been physically spotted. But southwest of Midway, Admiral Tanaka's troop transport group enters the recon search radius. 9 B-17 bombers take off and intercept Tanaka's ships, yet none of the 600-pound bombs hits even close. That night, Tanaka's force is attacked by several radar-equipped and torpedo-equipped Catalinas. Although the Catalinas are not designed for torpedo attacks, an oiler is hit at 1:54 a.m. The Americans have drawn first blood at Midway. It is a sleepless night for most concerned. At 2:30 a.m., the wake-up call rings through Kido Butai, alerting the aircraft mechanics. Type 99 dive bombers are fueled and armed for the first strike against Midway, while the carriers open the distances between each other in the water. At 4 a.m., the pilots are called to general quarters for a last inspection as the planes are warmed up. Famous Japanese heroes Minoru Genda and Mitsuo Fuchida, who we saw at Pearl Harbor, and who have been confined to sickbay and cannot fly this day, encourage the pilots as the planes begin to depart. At 4:45 a.m., the whole first strike of 108 aircraft turns as one and heads southeast towards Midway. The American task forces have meanwhile begun their own operation. From Yorktown, a group of 10 SBDs is sent out to find the enemy carriers. The weather is far from ideal, but it does not take them that long to accomplish their mission. At 5:44, their message, "Many planes heading towards Midway," puts the defenders on high alert. Buffaloes and Wildcats are started up for interception, and bombers fly out to engage Nagumo's carriers. The morning begins with both sides trading blows. Kido Butai is under almost constant attack from glide bombing, dive bombing, and level bombing attacks, but they either miss or the planes are shot down by watchful defending Zeros. The amount of enemy planes does give Nagumo some anxiety, especially after the report enemy surface ships detected comes in. Reports soon come in that suggest at least one American carrier is nearby. Now Nagumo is faced with a decision. Either wait for the Midway attack force to return and rearm, or risk ditching them in order to find that enemy carrier and launch his reserves immediately against it. Nagumo chooses the former, figuring he can live with a single carrier out there for the time being until he's able to launch a full attack against it. After 8:30, all the attacks begin to slow down, and Nagumo's planes start returning from Midway, well, those that survived the trip. They have managed to destroy several fuel tanks, hangars, and power stations, and many of the defending Wildcats have been wiped out by the Zeros, but harsh anti-aircraft fire has taken a heavy toll on the attackers. Nonetheless, Nagumo wants a second strike and sets about with landings and refuelings. Yet, already at 9:18, another flight of enemy aircraft is detected. Between then and 10 o'clock, torpedo bombers from Hornet, Enterprise, and Yorktown all descend on Kido Butai, but are pretty much slaughtered without inflicting significant damage. They do manage to disrupt Kido Butai's formation, but what is soon more important, torpedo bombers come in low to attack, so the Zeros of the Combat Air Patrol are now flying down low near the water, and while their attention is focused there, at 10:20 a.m., 3 squadrons of American dive bombers from Enterprise and Yorktown appear thousands of feet above, unreachable before they can attack. The decks of the Japanese carriers are loaded with planes refueling, so hoses carrying highly flammable aviation fuel from big fuel tanks are all over the place. Bombs and torpedoes to be loaded on planes are stacked around the hangars in the open. Throughout history, some battles have been decided in a day, or sometimes even in mere hours. This battle is decided in 6 minutes. At 10:22, the lookouts aboard Kaiga shout, "Enemy dive bombers inbound." The anti-aircraft guns turn towards the sky at our port quarter, where 2 squadrons of SBD Dauntlesses are going into a steep dive. 25mm automatic guns blaze into the sky. They destroy 1 SBD, but it is too little too late. Dive bombers release their 500 and 1,000-pound bombs in quick succession. The first 3 land in the water, but the 4th hits the flight deck aft, detonating in the crew compartments. The 7th bomb hits the forward elevator, detonating in the fighter stowage rooms. These bombs tear the interior of Kaiga apart, as the final bomb blows up the bridge, killing all of the ship's officers. As Kaiga comes under attack, Soryu is heading northwest, preparing to launch its Combat Air Patrol fighters. At 10:24, just as she is without air cover, Yorktown's dive bombers attack. Single Dauntlesses coming in from different angles overwhelm Soryu's fire control system and give them enough time to perform perfect dives. The first bomb demolishes Soryu's island. The second penetrates deep into the lower hangar. The third detonates on the flight deck. Hit after hit tears the ship apart, rupturing the boiler room and engulfing the carrier in fire. Nagumo watches in horror from his flagship Akagi as both carriers are rent by fiery explosions that blow aircraft and sailors to pieces. Suddenly, the alarm sounds on Akagi as well, and its AA guns open fire. Kaiga and Soryu had been attacked by many planes, but only 3 SBDs descend on Akagi, having pulled out of the dive on Kaiga for this attack, realizing that no one else is diving for Akagi. Yet, the element of surprise, the sluggishness of Akagi's AA guns, and the skill of the pilots is enough to kill even the mightiest Japanese carrier. A single direct hit of a 1,000-pound bomb, detonating dead center in Akagi's middle elevator, tears its insides apart. The American dive bombers fly off as quickly as they arrived, leaving 3 of Kido Butai's carriers burning and out of control. High-octane gasoline, oil, and lubricants burn bright and hot, while ammunition, bombs, and torpedoes explode inside the infernos. Hundreds die in mere moments. Many sailors and mechanics are trapped in the lower decks when the explosions rip through the ships. Men literally boil to death inside the compartments with no hope of salvation. Only Hiryu has managed to escape the carnage under a screen of zeros. Admiral Yamaguchi wastes no time ordering Hiryu's counterattack. At 11 a.m., 18 D-3A carrier bombers with 6 fighter escorts fly. They simply follow the retreating American planes, who, short on fuel, lead them directly to carrier Yorktown. Fighting in the skies over Yorktown is fierce, with American Wildcats flying right through the Japanese bomber formation, taking out many of them, but not all of them. And just after 10 past noon, the remaining 7 Japanese bombers begin their attack runs from different directions. Displaying expert skill, they hold their dive to the absolute limit. In the face of devastating anti-aircraft fire, 2 go down with their bombs. Only 5 make it out. Yorktown is first hit just abaft her midships elevator. Then a 550-pound armor-piercing bomb hits her directly amidships. A 3rd bomb on the forward elevator. The ship rocks under the explosions that follow as gasoline stores rupture and the magazine detonates. Nagumo has transferred his flag from the burning Akagi to the light cruiser Nagara, and at 12:45 the report reaches his bridge that the enemy carrier is burning. Yeah, the enemy carrier, as in one. The news is relayed by a pilot from the middle of the batting order, since losses among the elite team have been extremely high, but one American carrier has definitely been hit. At 1 p.m., 7 hours after the start of the battle, Nagumo finally receives some real intelligence. Destroyer Arashi has picked up a downed American pilot from Yorktown and successfully interrogated him. Only now does it become clear to Nagumo that they are facing not 1, but 3 carriers who are operating separately. Should he then cut his losses and safely retreat with Hiryu intact, or still try to fight a surface battle? Nagumo erroneously reasons that the Americans most likely are using the same tactic as the Japanese. In other words, Kido Butai is to be worn down by carrier attacks until the main American surface fleet arrives. But since that is not yet, he orders Hiryu to keep fighting. As its second strike team prepares to take off, Admiral Yamaguchi once more encourages his men to do their best. They represent the last hope for the carrier force. At 2:34, they find their target, which is once more Yorktown, now burning. Although the slower torpedo bombers are basically wiped out by American fighters and AA fire, they managed to score 2 torpedo hits, putting Yorktown out of action for good. Upon their return, there is no time to celebrate, however. Shortly after 5 p.m., as Hiryu prepares for a final strike at dusk, American dive bombers from Enterprise and Yorktown attack once more. A do-or-die battle develops, with Hiryu turning hard to port in an evasive move, while the Zeros desperately fight for their last operational carrier. Yet they are outnumbered, and SBDs manage to break through and land 4,000-pounder hits in quick succession on Hiryu's forward deck. Heavy fires break out as the flight deck immediately collapses in on itself. Hiryu speeds blindly away, and the dive bombers and a group of B-17s fail to again break through the screening force. When the American planes leave, though, all 4 Japanese carriers are brightly aflame. And here I will leave you for today. I know that it is only June 4th still in this tale, and today is the 5th, but there's a lot more to tell you, so I shall continue on the 7th where I left off. There is still a regular episode tomorrow on the 6th, but it will not cover the events in the mid-Pacific. 6 minutes of battle that may very well have changed the entire course of history. Did they? Only time will tell. Many consider Japan's invasion of China in 1937 the beginning point of World War II. If you'd like to see our Between Two Wars Season 1 episode about that, you can click right here any minute now. We also now have a whole line of Time Goes collectibles at the Time Goes Barracks, including special Midway collectible. And, we have other stuff like these fantastic mugs with me on it. Look how good I look. I look so young. That was a year ago. Anyhow, there will be a link below, and I bet something is popping up here. So go there, and do not forget to subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow.